She's not on the list. Those 4 words hit like a slap across the face. Amara Blake blinked, unsure if she'd heard correctly. The woman at the entrance, a sharp-faced event staffer in a black suit, stood with her arms crossed, blocking the way into the Grand Royale Hotel. Her tone was flat. Her eyes never met Amara's. For a moment, everything went still. The sounds of arriving guests, the soft classical music playing just inside, the clicking of expensive heels on marble, all of it faded as Amara tried to process what had just been said. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the woman repeated, louder this time. "Your name's not here. Only Mr. Blake is listed on the guest registry." Amara felt a sudden wave of confusion wash over her. Just an hour ago, she had received a confirmation email with her full name on it. Amara Elise Blake, RSVP confirmed. She had triple-checked it before leaving the house. She had been invited. Personally. She even had the printed invitation in her clutch, handwritten, gold-trimmed, official. She turned to her husband, Ethan Blake, standing tall beside her. His chiseled jaw tightened, and the muscle in his cheek twitched, a small but dangerous sign. Ethan Blake wasn't just a regular guest at events like this. He was the reason half the people in that ballroom were even here tonight. A self-made billionaire, CEO of Blake Innovations, his name commanded boardrooms and news cycles alike. He was also notoriously low-key. He rarely gave interviews, never bragged, and hated the spotlight. But mess with his wife? That was a different story. Amara took a slow breath, doing her best to stay composed. She knew how this would look if she reacted emotionally. She was no stranger to judgment, not just for being married to one of the most powerful men in America, but for being a black woman in rooms where few others looked like her. She'd spent years handling side eyes, double takes, and whispered comments behind champagne flutes. She's not on the list. Those 4 words hit like a slap across the face. Amara Blake blinked, unsure if she'd heard correctly. The woman at the entrance, a sharp-faced event staffer in a black suit, stood with her arms crossed, blocking the way into the Grand Royale Hotel. Her tone was flat. Her eyes never met Amara's. For a moment, everything went still. The sounds of arriving guests, the soft classical music playing just inside, the clicking of expensive heels on marble, all of it faded as Amara tried to process what had just been said. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the woman repeated, louder this time. "Your name's not here. Only Mr. Blake is listed on the guest registry." Amara felt a sudden wave of confusion wash over her. Just an hour ago, she had received a confirmation email with her full name on it. Amara Elise Blake, RSVP confirmed. She had triple-checked it before leaving the house. She had been invited. Personally. She even had the printed invitation in her clutch, handwritten, gold-trimmed, official. She turned to her husband, Ethan Blake, standing tall beside her. His chiseled jaw tightened, and the muscle in his cheek twitched, a small but dangerous sign. Ethan Blake wasn't just a regular guest at events like this. He was the reason half the people in that ballroom were even here tonight. A self-made billionaire, CEO of Blake Innovations, his name commanded boardrooms and news cycles alike. He was also notoriously low-key. He rarely gave interviews, never bragged, and hated the spotlight. But mess with his wife? That was a different story. Amara took a slow breath, doing her best to stay composed. She knew how this would look if she reacted emotionally. She was no stranger to judgment, not just for being married to one of the most powerful men in America, but for being a black woman in rooms where few others looked like her. She'd spent years handling side eyes, double takes, and whispered comments behind champagne flutes. She didn't glance down at the list again, didn't check a tablet or call a supervisor. She didn't ask Amara for her ID or her invitation. She just stood there, arms crossed, eyes glazed with forced professionalism, like Amara wasn't even there. Like she was invisible. And that's when it hit Amara, not as a slow realization, but a sharp, cold truth piercing through the confusion. This wasn't a clerical error. This was intentional. Her name hadn't just slipped through the cracks. Someone had purposely removed her, erased her, as if she didn't belong at this event, as if she didn't matter. Amara took a step back, willing herself to stay calm. Every second felt heavier under the gazes of the guests around them. She could feel their eyes, watching, judging, enjoying the scene without being a part of it. "There must be some misunderstanding," she said, her voice steady despite the sting in her chest. "I RSVP'd weeks ago. I even have the confirmation here." She reached into her clutch and pulled out the engraved invitation, holding it up as proof, her name printed in gold, clear as day. But the woman didn't lean forward, didn't even look. "I'm afraid you're not welcome inside, ma'am," the woman said curtly, her words crisp like cold glass. "No apology. No compassion. Just finality. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. The kind of tone that spoke volumes. A tone Amara had heard before in her life, in boardrooms, on airplanes, even in boutiques where she was followed instead of greeted. The tone that told her, "You're not one of us." Around them, the atmosphere began to shift. Conversations lowered. People slowed their steps, pretending to be checking their phones or adjusting their coats, when really, they were watching it all unfold. A few raised their eyebrows. Others smirked. But no one stepped forward. No one questioned it. Because for them, it wasn't surprising. A black woman being denied entry? It was uncomfortable, yes, but not unusual. Not in their world. Ethan's hand slid gently into Amara's. His grip was warm, firm, reassuring. "You okay?" he asked quietly, his voice low and charged with tension. Amara nodded slightly. Her face was still, but Ethan could see what others didn't. He saw the tightness in her jaw, the way her chest rose and fell just a little faster, the flicker of hurt buried deep behind her eyes. This wasn't just a public embarrassment. It was personal. Amara had always carried herself with grace. She knew what it meant to walk into a room where you had to prove, again and again, that you deserved to be there. She was used to people looking twice. She wasn't new to microaggressions, to fake smiles that didn't reach the eyes. But this wasn't subtle. This was a door being shut in her face. A message, loud and clear, "You're not welcome here." And what made it worse was that this was supposed to be her night too. She had helped raise funds for this very gala. She had hosted luncheons, made connections, sat in on meetings. She hadn't just earned her place, she had worked for it. And yet here she stood, treated like an outsider. Ethan looked at the woman at the door, then past her, to the glittering chandelier-lit lobby, where guests were laughing, sipping champagne, smiling for cameras. All that luxury, all that wealth, and none of it meant a thing if his wife wasn't respected. Ethan Blake wasn't just a billionaire with influence. He was a man who had spent his entire life protecting the people he loved. And Amara? She wasn't just his wife. She was his partner, his best friend, his everything. And tonight, they had tried to humiliate her. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. Not just Amara, the woman they tried to erase, but Ethan, the man who would burn bridges before letting someone walk over her. He took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. They weren't going to let this slide. Not tonight. Not ever. Instead of walking inside alone like they expected him to, Ethan turned to the security woman and said calmly, "Who is the event coordinator?" She blinked, caught off guard. Ms. Dana Whitmore." "Great." Ethan replied with a polite but cold smile. "Tell Ms. Whitmore that Ethan Blake and his wife Amara will not be attending her event tonight. And tell her this. She's just lost her biggest donor." The woman's face paled. Her confidence vanished in a heartbeat. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Whispers turned into murmurs, then into ripples across the marble entryway. Something was happening, something big. Phones started buzzing. People were noticing. Guests turned their heads. Waiters paused. Photographers adjusted their lenses. Who turns down the Grand Royale Gala? And why? Ethan didn't stop there. He took out his phone and, standing tall under the golden glow of the entrance lights, made a call. Loudly, deliberately. "Hi, James," he said into the phone. "Pull our foundation's donation from the Whitmore Trust. Effective immediately. And find me another charity, one that knows how to treat people with respect." A pause. Yes, the full million. Gasps. Audible now. People were frozen in place. Their conversations stopped mid-sentence. $1 million, gone in a phone call. And the cameras caught every second of it. A nearby reporter, already live streaming from the red carpet, zoomed in. Other guests, their phones raised high, recorded from every angle. TikToks, Instagram lives, news clips, they all began documenting the moment. In real time. The woman at the door took a step back, her eyes wide. She no longer saw just a donor. She saw a reckoning. Ethan lowered the phone and tucked it back into his blazer. He wasn't yelling. He hadn't raised his voice once. But the message was deafening. Inside the ballroom, Dana Whitmore's smile was fading. The buzz reached her ears. Assistants scrambled. PR people looked nervous. Something had shifted. Amara stood beside Ethan, her posture straight, her chin slightly raised. She hadn't spoken during the entire exchange, but she didn't have to. Her presence said everything. She wasn't here for pity. She wasn't here to beg. She was done asking for respect. And now, the world could see why she deserved it without question. Ethan turned slightly toward her and said gently, "Still want to go in?" Amara looked at the doors, the gleaming marble floors inside, the swirl of gowns and diamonds, the chandeliers sparkling above the heads of people who wouldn't have stood up for her. Then she turned back to Ethan and gave a small shake of her head. "No," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Let's go. I brought my own light." Ethan smiled, not the practiced, polite smile of a CEO at an event, but a real one. Soft. Proud. He offered his arm, and she took it. Together, they turned and walked away from the gala, not with bitterness, but with power. They walked away from a room that tried to erase her. And in doing so, they lit up the night more than any chandelier inside. As they descended the steps, camera flashes popped. Guests parted to give them space. Murmurs turned into praise. Applause even rippled through a small crowd outside the venue. Because in that moment, everyone knew. This wasn't just about a party. It was about a message. Some people begged to be let in. Others walk away and take the room's worth with them. And Amara Blake? She walked away with her dignity untouched, her voice unshaken, and the world watching in awe. 10 minutes after Ethan and Amara turned away, the towering glass doors of the Grand Royale burst open. Dana Whitmore herself came rushing down the steps, flustered, one hand holding her glittering clutch, the other desperately trying to keep her smile from cracking. Her heels clicked wildly against the marble as she scrambled toward them. "Mr. Blake," she called out breathlessly, her voice a little too bright. "I'm so terribly sorry. There must have been a mix-up. A clerical error, that's all. Please, both of you, come in." But Ethan wasn't smiling anymore. He didn't turn fully around, just enough to acknowledge her presence. "No mix-up, Dana," he said quietly, his voice razor-sharp. "You knew exactly what you were doing." Dana's smile twitched. Amara stepped forward, chin high, her voice calm but powerful. "You didn't just erase my name. You tried to erase me." Dana's mouth opened, then closed. She tried again. Of course not. We value all our guests, eh?" Ethan cut her off. His tone was clipped, cool, and unforgiving. "You value connections. Money. Image. But not people. Not character." Cameras clicked. The flashes were relentless now. The photographers didn't need to be told where the real story was. Guests lingered near the steps. Nobody stepped forward to defend Dana. Not tonight. No one wanted to be associated with what was unfolding. No one wanted to end up on the wrong side of the story. Dana took another step forward, her desperation breaking through her mask of poise. "Please, Ethan, this is all a misunderstanding. Let me make it right. Come back inside. You're our most important guests." Amara tilted her head slightly. "Funny," she said, her voice steady. "I didn't feel like the most important guest when your staff looked me in the face and told me I wasn't welcome." Dana's eyes darted toward the cameras and phones, her nerves showing. "We'll issue a formal apology," she rushed out. "Right away. We'll say it was a mistake in the system. I'll make sure the press understands, eh?" Ethan raised a hand to silence her. "No," he said. "You don't get to spin this. Not after what you did. What you allowed." Dana looked at him, blinking rapidly, the cracks in her glossy facade now fully exposed. "This isn't about an apology," Ethan continued, his voice resonant. "This is about what you stand for. About how you treat people when you think no one's watching. Well, now they're watching." He gestured subtly to the rows of phones and cameras trained on them. Live feeds. Recording lights. The entire world watching this moment unfold. And they're not going to forget it. Dana took a shaky breath. "We'll double the donation to your foundation. We'll add Amara to the advisory board. Please just." Amara's expression didn't change. "I don't want your money. I want respect. And you can't buy that." Ethan looked at his wife, then back at Dana. "You could have just said, 'Welcome.' But instead, you said, 'You don't belong.'" Amara stepped closer, her voice still low but powerful. "We belong wherever we choose to be. And tonight, we choose not to be part of this." Dana opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was used to controlling the room. But tonight, she had none. Ethan took Amara's hand again, lacing his fingers through hers. "Let's go," he said softly. And then, loud enough for the cameras to hear, "I'll throw our own gala. One where everyone's welcome." That line echoed. People on the steps paused. Phones trembled slightly in hands. A ripple of awareness passed through the crowd. Dana stood alone, small beneath the towering columns of the Grand Royale. And as the Blakes walked away, the applause started, quiet at first, then stronger. Not from inside the gala, but from outside. From the people who saw what just happened. From those who knew the value of dignity over glitter. Principle over pomp. Amara didn't look back. She didn't have to. Because some victories aren't about walking through doors. They're about choosing which ones to close. And tonight, Amara Blake closed a door that had tried to shut her out, and did it with grace, fire, and the whole world watching. They didn't need to walk into the ballroom to make an impact. In fact, by turning away, Ethan and Amara made more noise than anyone who walked that red carpet ever could. That night, the story spread like wildfire. Videos of Ethan's calm but firm phone call and Amara's poised refusal to accept a hollow apology were everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, news feeds. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag power couple, hashtag protect black women, hashtag Amara Blake. The internet had crowned its heroes. Tweets racked up millions of views within hours. Power couple goals. Protect your queen. She didn't need to be on their list. She's already in a league of her own. It wasn't just fans and influencers chiming in. Celebrities reposted the video. Civil rights advocates praised the moment as a defining stance against elite exclusion. Late-night hosts mentioned it in their monologues. By morning, news outlets from CNN to BuzzFeed ran the headline. Billionaire walks away from $1 million gala after wife denied entry. Even business magazines took notice. The cost of disrespect. What Ethan Blake's stand means for philanthropy. Meanwhile, Dana Whitmore scrambled. She issued a formal apology the next day, public, polished, and painfully late. A bland statement about miscommunication and regret was emailed to press outlets and posted on social media. But no one was buying it. Board members started resigning. Donors pulled funding. A charity known for glitter and gold suddenly found itself scrambling to maintain credibility. Because the world had already seen the truth. Live. Unfiltered. Sponsors began backing out. Some quietly. Others very publicly. One company released a statement citing their commitment to inclusion and stating they could no longer support events hosted by the Whitmore Trust. And in the middle of the fallout, Ethan and Amara were nowhere near bitter. They were busy building. Just a week later, they announced a new initiative through the Blake Foundation, a multi-million-dollar fund dedicated to supporting minority-led charities and inclusive cultural events. The announcement came via a heartfelt video posted to their joint social media page. "We believe charity should be about more than money," Amara said in the video, sitting beside Ethan on a sunny balcony. "It should be about people, about lifting voices that are too often silenced." Ethan added, "We want to fund not just causes, but community. And community doesn't come from exclusion. It comes from respect." Donations poured in. Within 48 hours, the initiative had raised over $4 million from other supporters, everyday people, celebrities, even rival philanthropists inspired by their stance. More importantly, it started conversations. Boards reevaluated their event policies. Major charity galas updated their inclusion standards. Event planners were suddenly all ears on diversity training. One overlooked guest list had triggered a much-needed reckoning. As for Dana Whitmore and her inner circle, the consequences kept coming. Invitations stopped flowing. Her social capital tanked. For someone who thrived on being at the center of it all, silence became her new reality. But Ethan and Amara? They thrived. They attended community-led galas in Harlem, grassroots celebrations in Oakland, and cultural events that had never before seen someone of Ethan's status show up, not as a speaker, but as a listener. Amara was invited to speak at universities, interviewed for her grace under pressure, her strength, her voice. The couple graced magazine covers, not for fashion or wealth, but for values. One headline read, "Amara and Ethan Blake, when love leads the revolution." They didn't just make a statement that night. They started a movement. And as for the people who thought they could erase a black woman from a guest list and get away with it, they learned something that night. You can't silence strength. And you can't blacklist love. Because love, the kind that uplifts, protects, and empowers, is louder than any orchestra, brighter than any chandelier, and more unforgettable than any gala. And Amara Blake wasn't just on the list anymore. She was the list. She was elegant, graceful, ready to walk into one of the most exclusive galas in New York, until a woman at the door said 6 crushing words. She's not on the guest list. What they didn't know. Her husband was a billionaire, and tonight, They'd learn what happens when you try to erase a black woman from the room.